Okay. It's 6 p.m. Welcome to the Village Board meeting for Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. We'll call this Part 2 since we already kicked off this meeting and had an executive session. So we will return to our regular agenda minus the roll call and minus the executive session at 5:30. So if everyone would stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Trustee Mishler, would you please read the land acknowledgement this evening?
Before we begin this evening, we would like to recognize the Seneca Nation on whose ancestral territory we are gathering. The present-day Village of Fairport sits on traditional Seneca land. The Seneca Nation, with the Mohawk, Cayuga, Onondaga, Oneida, and Tuscarora, make up the sovereign Haudenosaunee Confederacy. With respect, we acknowledge the people of the Seneca Nation on whose land we now live. We honor their past, present, and future contributions to and stewardship of this land.
Thank you. With that, at 6:03, we'll open Citizens Forum. So if there's anybody who's signed up on the list over here to speak, do we have anybody on the list? So I think is there anybody other than Bill at this point in time? No. Okay, Bill Mayer, please come up and if you would state your address and your name for the record, please.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Bill Mayer. I've lived at 51 Dewey for 14 years. I'd like to comment on the plan for the Main Street streetscaping project, specifically about the exclusion of bike lanes in the project's current design. For background about why this is important to me, I've been concerned about the growing threat of climate change for over 30 years. I have observed the threat go from a warning to a destructive reality that's only going to worsen, although we still have a chance to avoid the most severe effects if we act now. For this reason, I've been an active volunteer with local climate organizations for the past 10 years. In addition, to reduce my own fossil fuel emissions, I use my bike for transportation almost every day, including biking to work through the village, no matter what the weather or season. According to Monroe County's Climate Action Plan, the transportation sector in our county represents the highest contributor to our overall greenhouse gas emissions at 41% of total emissions. The plan calls for two strategies for reducing those emissions: transitioning to electric vehicles and reducing vehicle miles traveled. Creating safe bike infrastructure in Fairport is essential for meeting that objective. Biking for transportation may not be all that common in Fairport today, but those who do it have valid reasons, whether to save money or avoid polluting the atmosphere and warming the planet. And if you provide bike lanes, you're making Fairport safer for anyone to start riding their bikes for transportation, unlocking a crucial emission reduction strategy for the whole community. Thus, it makes sense to me that a few years ago, when the village wrote a grant for the Main Street project to the Federal Transportation Alternative Program, they very clearly listed bike lanes into the project proposal. Here's the language from the proposal. The project zone will be inclusive of new sidewalks, brick pavers, bicycle and pedestrian delineation, street trees and other landscaping, crosswalk enhancements, street lighting, bicycle lanes, bus stops, etc. The corridor connection is a critical piece connecting all multimodal plans for the village of Fairport so that people can enjoy our village features via bike, boat, and walking. At the board discussion of this proposal, the village manager confirmed that the project included bike lanes. The village board voted unanimously to accept the grant in February 2023. A trustee at that meeting asked directly, "Is this a multimodal project that includes bike lanes?" The answer was yes. Lastly, language from the village's contract with a design firm describes the project as including new sidewalk, crosswalk enhancements, bike lanes, street lighting, and more to enhance mobility for pedestrians and bikes within the village. Well, we got the grant. It was one of the largest amounts in our region. Fittingly, when Governor Hochul announced the projects, she highlighted their potential to combat climate change, which was also the message in letters of support from our state and federal representatives. The problem is, the village isn't currently planning to implement bike lanes. Somewhere between when the village accepted the funding and when it held the community open house event this June, those bike lanes disappeared from the project. And I cannot find any record that this change was the result of an official action conducted in public by the Board of Trustees. At the open house, we were told that the project boundaries were from curb to facade, that this was an aesthetic project, and that there would be no changes made to the traffic pattern. The project would, however, involve adding new parking spaces on Main Street. There was no mention of bike lanes or the goal of combating climate change. After the presentation, my wife Jenny had a conversation with the design firm's project manager about bike lanes. He replied, we would need to hear from a lot of bicyclists in order to consider adding bike lanes. We walked away wondering how any Fairport resident would know to speak up about bike lanes after being told the project was confined to curb to facade. Anyway, my wife, being who she is, took the project manager's comment as a challenge and rounded up signatures from 49 village residents and Main Street users on a petition asking for a design that includes bike lanes. She also received technical support from the folks at Reconnect Rochester, who voluntarily drafted a design for bike lanes that could work for Main Street. My wife sent all that into the board and also spoke at a village board meeting. To both efforts, the response was, this project is curb to facade. Bike lanes are not in its scope. So Ginny emailed back refuting this, citing all the documentation that I mentioned. A couple hours later, the administration replied, bike lanes will not fall within the scope of the financial resources that we have available for this particular project. My wife replied asking what bike lane design were they using for cost estimates, and when did the board discuss the project budget and rule out bike lanes? To this, there was no reply. So what's the current outcome? Now the village seems poised to finalize the design without bike lanes, leaving us to continue lacking that basic safety infrastructure. I believe instead the design calls for new parking spaces to be added to Main Street, which is another major problem for bicycling. One of the worst safety threats when riding in a roadway is when you have to pass parked cars. When doing so, you have to watch closely for doors opening suddenly. The advice to bicyclists is to avoid the door zone, but that puts you further into traffic. Adding additional on-street parking to Main Street, to me, appears to be a violation of the TAP restriction that forbids actions that do not prioritize pedestrians and/or bicyclists. Imagine the terrible irony of a future Fairport bicyclist getting injured by a door of a car parked in space funded by the TAP program where a bike lane should have been delineated. By casting aside the proposed bike lanes, Fairport is now in a uniquely uncomfortable situation where we're about to utilize transportation alternatives funding to actually make Main Street less conducive to an essential transportation alternative. And in using federal funding, we are essentially borrowing money from future generations to reinforce infrastructure that is harmful to future generations. One last troubling aspect. Moving forward with what's currently designed could make it more difficult for future village boards to add bike lanes anywhere in the village, especially on Main Street, where reworking or undoing portions of this project, including its new parking spaces, curbs, and street trees, might be required in order to implement bike lanes. And how are future administrations supposed to seek funding? Go back to TAP and say, we're proposing bike lanes again, but this time we really mean it. This would be a terrible legacy for you all, for this project, and for our community. I don't believe you want that. I believe the administration had good intentions when it voted to include bike lanes in the project. You still have an opportunity to do the right thing, what the Transportation Alternatives Program awarded you funding for. Do what you said you were going to do, and keep Fairport from making a terrible mistake when it could be making transformational progress. Thank you.
Thanks very much. All right, there's no one else on the list, Megan? Okay, then at 10 minutes after 6, so 6:10, we will close citizens forum and return to the agenda. So that will take us to unfinished business. And can I have a motion by the village board to approve the minutes of the September 9th, 2024 village board meeting?
So moved.
By trustee Mishler,
Second.
by trustee Briggs. Any questions or comments regarding those minutes? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then that will be unanimous. Taking us to new business, item number 1 is a motion by the village board to enter into an arboricultural, there we go, I got through it at least, and urban forest management consulting services agreement between the Village of Fairport and J. Galilee Arbor Consulting LLC, and to authorize Julie M. Domeratz as mayor to execute the agreement.
So moved.
By trustee Banowski,
Second.
by trustee Wojcik. Any questions or comments about this contract?
So it's a 3-year contract, and we've always had an arborist consultant for the village, so that's not new, right?
Correct.
Is this the same person we've been working with in the past?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Anything else?
And it's a contract based on need, correct? So we email, we communicate on,
Yeah,
so there's a,
correct. They act as that. They assist the tree board and the village board with just understanding what they have, recommendations for new trees, recommendations for, analysis on trees that may be declining and whether they should be removed or not. Gives analysis on, we have a fairly large population of, what's our large historic trees in the village? What are they called?
Which trees?
Or really large trees that we have in the village, like by Potter?
Honey locusts?
No.
No.
Are those silver maples?
No, I can't remember it now.
All right.
I'll think of it. But nevertheless,
There's
so they
big
get
trees.
provided information for that and recommendations. What's the one on Potter that's 6 feet wide in diameter? I'm losing it.
the beach tree.
Beach tree.
Copper Beach.
Correct, Copper Beach. Thank you. So things of that nature. So it definitely helps out.
Got there.
And initially, when the arborist was here, they went through a very thorough process of documenting all the village trees, what species they are, where they were at, what was their potential age, those type of things, so you can really understand what you have, and also producing a map of all of this too, so we can maintain our infrastructure. So,
Anything else?
And the supply will be going up
yes, it will.
by 39, was it? I forget what the number was. I think it was 39.
Can I have all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That will be unanimous as well. Taking us to item number 2, a motion by the village board to authorize Boy Scout Troop 209 to sell Christmas trees in the southwest portion of the village landing lot adjacent to the electric charging stations from Friday, November 29th, 2024 through Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. The hours of operation will be Wednesday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. till 8 p.m., and the initial setup of the tree lot will be on November 18th. Dates and hours may change as deemed appropriate by the village manager. Can I have a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
By trustee
Mishler.
Mishler. I'm getting there.
Second, trustee Briggs.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Super exciting. to
Same
have them
organization?
back every year.
It is. I forgot last year we discussed this, but it was something significant. 30 or 40 years they've been doing this.
Yeah.
A really, really long time.
Yeah.
So is there a contract that we enter into them?
There
Because
is
I
not.
think there were a couple challenges that we faced over the last couple of years with respect to that, the piece about as deemed by the village manager. Does that give you enough?
Oh, it does, because it's on our property, so we can control it. But
Leeway
if you
to-
want to draft some type of agreement, I'm more than happy to prepare one for them.
Only if you feel it's necessary. If you feel it's not necessary, like it is on here today, then I don't,
Let's discuss offline.
okay. If you feel it's necessary, I sense that you'll get full support from the board.
Are the EV chargers really accessible when they're there? I know they're supposed to be.
Yes,
but are
the parameters of the fencing for the trees and the confines of that are not inhibiting on the EV charging parking spaces. Yep.
Okay. Then, If there's no further questions or comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That will be unanimous as well. Taking us to item number 3, a motion by the village board to declare surplus certain village-owned vehicles and equipment and discard them by means of public auction, sealed bids, or private sale. I am not going to read the VIN numbers of all these vehicles. I will state that, and I'll ask John to make sure that I'm doing this appropriately, as listed on the agenda below. Is that okay?
No problem at all.
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items in discussion that are listed on the agenda. Can I have a motion and a second for that, please?
So moved.
By trustee Banowski,
Second.
by trustee Wojka. Any questions or comments from the board?
Will these vehicles be replaced or just taken out for,
Some of them will.
is that me?
The police department vehicle that you see here was in a car accident, so therefore that's been replaced already. It was actually delivered today. The 2014, 2012 F-250s will be replaced and have already been, one that just came in the other day and another one's on order. The 2019 Mitsubishi Outlander is actually an FMC vehicle, but the board has jurisdiction over that as well as the commission. The reason we're getting rid of that, it just doesn't have the range. I mean, even going to Syracuse and back, it goes empty. It's just got a very small 9-gallon tank. It just doesn't, it hasn't, and it was an early gen plug-in hybrid that we have that gets like 9 miles to the charge. So it's just not a very operational friendly vehicle. And while it still has significant value and we think the marketplace is there, we're going to sell it. And then the 19 Chevy Silverado pickup has some mechanical issues, is why we are removing that from our fleet. And those will be replaced, correct?
Just curious.
Sure.
I think in the report that you sent the board, a lot like the public works vehicles had very low mileage and were very old, which would indicate they're electric.
No, the public works vehicles are none of them are electric actually, except for one is a plug-in hybrid. They just don't get a lot of miles in the village when you're 1.5 square miles. But they have a lot of run time, a lot of idle time. The big issue we started getting into significant rust in the undercarriage with these vehicles. If I showed you pictures of them, one of them is we've had the 12 that's been in our fleet for quite some time, and it's our vehicle that we used to dump trash out of, and all our maintenance vehicles and stuff. I mean, it's hit its life expectancy. We will probably do pretty well on these in auction, and then all the money that comes from this will go back into the capital reserve for future purchases.
Okay, thank you.
I'm doing my look. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay.
That sounds like Chief got the vehicle back relatively quickly, or a new one.
We did. We were able to
Okay.
find one on state contract and get it delivered pretty
That was
quick.
faster than we thought, right?
Yeah.
So that's great.
I agree. It's not the traditional Ford Explorer that we're trying to stick with. The 25s aren't out yet, but this was similar to the Dodge Durango that you had before,
Okay, good.
and a little less expensive than the one with the Ford. So,
Even better.
yeah.
Okay, I'm checking one more time. Good. Are we good? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? That will take care of item number 3. Item number 4 is a motion by the village board to approve the following budget amendment related to the DPW trench drain capital project to increase the project budget from $72,000 to $120,545, and from budget H5012, DPW administration, there's a transfer from capital reserve of those funds, which is from H5031, and they are matching amounts. So it's adding $48,545 into that DPW administration fund. Can I have a motion and a second for that, please?
So moved.
By trustee Banowski,
Second, trustee Briggs.
Any questions or comments? I'll look to my right. You guys okay?
Seems like a lot of this is just stuff that documents said one thing, you cut it open and, oh, hi.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. It said hi. No, the trench drain in the fleet building for Public Works needed to be replaced. It was an old metal one that rusted through and it was failing on the sides. As they got into it, they realized the plumbing from the initial build out was actually incorrect and flowing in the wrong direction, and a number of things. Plus, it was built to last because it had a lot of rebar in the concrete and so forth, which made it really challenging to get out. So it was above and beyond the time and scope that was represented when we bid this project out. So I questioned hard on this, and they actually took some off. This price was actually even higher due to a number of factors. But the work was definitely done. It was a significant project. It was done now with all stainless and cast aluminum, so this will never be an issue again. And it's probably going to drain now. Before, it would clog up constantly. You'd have to get out and pull up, I would tell you, probably 150 feet of drain every month of cast and dig it all out. Now that's all going to flush out and clean by itself. It's a nice upgrade to have. So.
And it looks like this is just for the demo portion of it. They're still anticipating the same costs for.
No, the project's complete.
Okay.
So they demoed it out, recast everything,
Oh, okay.
re-poured concrete, rebarred,
Okay.
set all the new drain tile. Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks.
It's a long time coming. This was on the books when I got here a decade ago. I remember talking about it and needing it then, and they kept limping it along and limping it along. It's never a good time to come in and kind of trench through your major truck bay and workshop and stuff like that, so it kept being pushed off to a point where it was actually sinking and failing and trucks were going into it, so it had it to be replaced. We got our money out of it.
The trench bay that eats trucks daily alive. Any questions from this end of the board?
No, you answered them. I had just wondered where the project was, but you clearly explained where it was.
Okay.
And it's done.
How long did that take to complete?
I think they were down there months going back and forth with the project. I don't think it was 2 months of working every day, but
So they originally thought it was like 8 feet of concrete? Is that, and then it ended up being 12 feet? And it was,
Inches.
8 inches, and it was 12.
they did have to go wider than expected. And I think just the excavation of the initial drain and the casting around the drain presented a lot more challenge than what was bid on initially.
Glad they got it done.
We're having the same issue in the fire department with some of their stuff, and then FMC's having this work done in their truck bays next year, and it's going to be the same thing. So yeah, you'll see this again.
Thanks for the warning. With that, if there are no more questions, I'll ask for all in favor.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That will carry unanimously. Item number 5 is a motion to approve a resolution authorizing additional expenditures from the the general capital reserve for the full year 2024-2025 capital expenditure plan. Can I have a motion and a second for that?
So moved.
By trustee Mishler,
Second?
by trustee Banowski. Questions? I'll start down here. No? Okay. Anything? Anything at this end?
We're authorizing additional expenditures from the general. Can you clarify that?
That's correct. Where we're using another $48,000 from the capital reserve
Okay,
to pay for the
for the drain.
increase of that.
Okay,
Right.
yep,
And so because of that, we had to come to you for a budget amendment to do that.
got it.
Thank you, Emily.
I'm not afraid to ask.
Usually Megan explains it. I was just waiting for Megan's explanation.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Yes, I am.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That will be unanimous. Item number 6 is a motion by the village board to accept the September 2024 financial statements for the Village of Fairport and the Fairport Municipal Commission. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
I heard one at this end. Was that you?
Mishler.
Trustee Mishler. And I heard a second from trustee Wicca. Any questions from the board for Megan or Brian regarding the financial statements for the village or for FMC?
I had a couple. I wrote them down. Revenues for the docks were roughly 8,000 for September. Is that, because I know that there were comments, just kind of informal comments, anecdotal comments, that docking fee, or that the docks were being used less this summer. Did we see, I know 8,000 seemed like a lot of revenue coming in for the month of September. Do we know that was that pretty typical for September? Not sure. Okay.
It started off from day one, from April when the canal was starting to open. It just seemed to be slower. We noticed it from the dock matchers noticed it. We noticed it. I mean, I'll tell you, for like Canal Days and Music Fest, there were still spots open. Canal Days had tons of spots open, which is never the case. It's generally boats are there and then they bumper and raft off of each other just to have a spot to kind of hang out and be their home base. I don't know if it's just something where people are doing other things, going other places, finding other things to do with that. I don't know. I think we'll come out fairly close to where we were at, but the first couple of months we were pretty scared. I wanted to see it packed. Like I said, we don't generally turn away boats unless we need to, and thank God we don't have any policies that are just not letting people moor there. If there's something where we start having significant demand that exceeds our capacity, we can always look at how do we adjust that accordingly to make sure that there's room for everyone that wants to come through here and spend a little time at our docks. But yeah, speaking of that, the canal does close tomorrow, so you won't see any more boats on there outside of the Colonial Bell, which has an extended mooring permit and operating permit for the canal.
Till the end of the month?
I believe so, yes.
There was also an expenditure because we're in the 4th month of our 12-month fiscal year, correct? So we're about a third of the way through.
June, July, August,
Okay,
September,
so
4 months.
I noticed in Megan, your amazing reports, the zoning board, the zoning bill was like, we were already 83%, which was obviously further along than a third of the way, or right? Are we okay with that?
So we encumber the whole contract.
Okay. Oh,
at the
okay.
beginning, so that number should stay the same. So 83% is either spent or encumbered,
Okay.
and that takes up most of the zoning code budget for
Okay.
the year.
So just to clarify, we shouldn't see any surprises in the cost of that project,
I
or
haven't gotten any change orders.
okay.
No, I mean, it's contractual with a not to exceed, so it has to live within the confines
Okay.
of the contract award that you guys authorized.
Okay.
Right, they don't have the ability just to keep doing that. It was for the full process, when had a bunch of milestones and steps for that process, and I don't see it exceeding that at all.
Okay, good. Thanks for that clarification. Do we know if we had, sorry, my brain is tired. The amount of compost, I know we were gonna start looking at that when we did the bills. We didn't get that right.
I looked at it, but I didn't write it down, sorry.
Okay. I was just, I would love for us to report that out, and I can do it too.
No, that's okay,
I think that I'll make the ask. I'll make the ask. Can you go and then push that out via Facebook and Instagram on our account?
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
those who are composting, I mean, it's rewarding to see how much we're actually diverting from the landfill. As another, we had a couple talking about emissions and greenhouse gas. I mean, one of the very easy things we can do to keep greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere is to compost. So we heard about that in our sustainability presentation too. So, and that's not a conflict of bikes and parking, and there's no conflict there. We just compost. So, okay, that would be great. Thank you, Brian.
All set?
You bet. Oh,
I'm asking you, are you all set?
yes, I do that with my first graders. All set? And they say, you bet. Sorry, I
Okay.
just said you bet.
Okay.
Sorry.
Then, seeing no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That will be unanimous as well. That was item number 6. Moving on to item number 7, a motion by the village board to authorize payment of audited bills. Can I have the motions and the second, please?
So moved.
By trustee Wojka.
Second, trustee Briggs?
Did trustee Briggs do the audited bills this month, or did you?
This is the one I can't.
This
This,
is,
this is the one that I jumped last time, and then, yeah.
so,
I have also reviewed.
who did the auditing of the bills? Okay, so the second and the motion have to come from
Right.
the two of you.
Right.
Second.
I've reviewed an audit of the bills and found all things to be in order.
Okay, so you're seconding it.
Yes.
Great. Any questions from the board on the audited bills? Did you find everything to be in order, as you just said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Found everything to be in order.
Okay. Anything from anybody else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I did notice we are paying our share of the Main Streetscape, like that is coming out. I noticed that. How many of those payments have been coming out now? It's like 20,000, is that what it?
Well, there's more than that. I mean, it's a $330,000 bill total, invoice total. for
Right,
things
right,
on-
but monthly, like,
It's significant.
we're already, you have to start paying for the stuff before it's done.
It's 247, 242 total.
No, 29 is coming from us, and then 59 is from back from
Our portion was the 29,000, correct? Okay. And then the other portion was from the grant?
Yeah, each bill we do the 80-20 split.
Right, okay.
80 or $90,000
From our-
so far, from
us
design
personally,
total
yeah.
worth of work.
Okay.
So real quick, as just a follow-up, that's, all the grants are reimbursement, right? Which is why we bonded. Right, didn't we bond for the Main Street?
Yeah, they're not
Well-
paying us this money right now. We
Right.
have to pay
We're
it.
spending it and then
But
we get
you're
it back.
Then
keeping
we
the
get reimbursed,
account.
so it comes down to a cash flow. I mean,
Right.
when you have a $5 million project, so say, for instance, like I can tell you in April, May, you're gonna have a really big bill. You're gonna have a significant procurement for raw materials for the project. Plus, you're gonna have a month to 6 weeks of labor coming in. You could have $1 million, $1.5 million invoice coming through the AIA application. So if you do that, you don't have that just sitting in the bank to make the check. And then sometimes it takes them a while to kind of get reimbursed, and we send the check out. So what if it goes 2 months like that and we're $2.5 million? That's a cash flow problem for us on a $7 million general fund budget. So that's why we bonded the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, and I have no doubt on that. I saw some of the bills for the repaving. It looks great. The repaving looks great. You pay for what you get, though.
It adds up quick, correct, correct.
Was Filkins done this time? When was Filkins
Can you
done?
hold that question?
Oh, sorry.
Can you hold that question so we can finish the
Yes.
bills? And then I promise I'll give you an opportunity to come back
To it. So all in favor of the authorizing payment of the audited bills? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That will carry.
I will.
Oh, we were just talking about.
Go
the
ahead
pa-
and take
the-
your
the
question
street
about
work.
Filkins.
Was Filkins done this time?
I want to say yes,
I
but
think
I'm
it-
doubting myself. I can find out real quick.
I have my list in the other room.
Bob, was Filkins done this time? Mr. Salmon? Was Filkins just done, right? Your street Filkins was just done?
I believe there
Oh,
was
I
a,
thought, oh, sorry, I'm thinking Fiora. Okay,
Fiora was.
That's
It had-
what I
It had an
thought.
oil and stone on it.
I meant Fiora, not Filkins. It looks
It
beautiful,
looks really
right?
good.
Good.
Thank you.
Now we gotta pick up the leaves on the street, on the
Started
newly
today.
paved street.
Starting
Started
today, correct.
They came today. And they'll, so to add to that, the leaf pickup started today. because I saw them come down our street and pick up leaves. It'll continue to sometime mid-December, so roughly the 15th through the 18th, thereabouts, depending on the weather and how things are going. But we're on schedule to kick off leaf pickup. That should come from my announcements, but,
It's been
We're there.
announced.
okay, it's been announced, so I don't have to announce
Fits
it
right
later.
in at that moment.
So I'm going to move on to item number 8, which is, can I have a motion by the village board to amend the previously approved amount of $60,000 to pay health and dental insurance premiums paid in the month of October to $48,882.99?
So moved.
By trustee Banowski,
Second, trustee Briggs.
trustee Briggs. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? That'll be unanimous. And then item number 9 is a motion by the village board to authorize the clerk treasurer to pay health and dental insurance premiums for the month of November in an initial estimated amount not to exceed $60,000, subject to audit and amending authorization by the village board at their regularly scheduled November meeting.
So move.
By trustee Banowski,
Second.
by trustee Wojka. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, now we'll move to announcements and committee reports. I usually go last, but I have a list that I want to make sure that we hit, and I'll leave an opportunity for everybody after that. One, I want to thank Luke left already. I want to thank Color Fairport Green for the event that they held last week talking about zoning and climate. And in fact, Ginny Mayer, who was here a little earlier, was one of the hosts of that. And I see other folks here who attended that, and I think it was, as well as many board members. And I just think it was a good opportunity to talk more about what we can do from a zoning perspective to help influence working towards less greenhouse gases and towards climate smart solutions. So I have that. October 24th, there will be a zoning code update work session meeting at 6 p.m. in this room. The public is welcome to attend, but there will not be a public comment section at that particular meeting. It's in the format of a workshop. So Jill will be here. I'm not sure if she'll have additional folks here, and we'll be talking about the next steps with the feedback that was received from all of the information gathering earlier this year. Crosswalks with beacon lights were installed on West Church Street last week, I think, or possibly the week before. As with all crosswalks, I ask that everybody remember to cross the street using caution. Even though there is a crosswalk at many locations in the village, that doesn't mean that the driver of a car is always going to slow down and stop. And it's crosswalks are there to help encourage a more safer crossing of the street, but you still have to use a bit of caution. And in addition to that crosswalk, the DPW has begun work on crosswalks that are at the corner of Perrin Street and West Avenue. They are in progress, and I'm guessing that they'll be completed sometime in the next couple of weeks. They're working on the sidewalk cuts for the crosswalks. I was asked to remind everybody that Friday, October 25th is the Halloween parade. I'm going to rely on somebody else on this board to say what time and the location, and there I open it up. What time?
It's from 6 to 9.
From 6 to 9.
Start at Joanna Perrin Middle School.
There we go.
And you
Anything
walk
else?
toward Potter Park.
Anything else we need to know?
Do not need to register. Show up.
Excellent. I knew I could get group work here on the Halloween parade. The DPW is also in process working on the installation. They're still not quite with all the equipment yet, but they are working towards installation of ADA door closers at the back door of Village Hall. It's still a ways away, but coming soon or coming in a few months. There will be installation of ADA push-button door opening at the bottom of the stairs, very close to the elevator, to make sure that we have access to Village Hall. And Brian, did I forget anything else from this morning that I was supposed to cover? I tried to take good notes. Okay. From there, I will open it up to everybody else. Why don't I start at this end? Heidi, do you have anything you'd like to share?
I don't have any announcements, just make sure early voting starts up on the 26th of October through November 3rd, correct? And just make sure that you know your polling place and that you have a plan to vote.
And during early voting, you can vote at any of the early voting locations. You don't have to vote, and you probably can't vote at your traditional voting location, but there are 9 across Monroe County, and you can vote at any of those.
That's it.
Adam, anything?
I think you covered just about everything. I think it's been fun, at least my neck of the woods. I've been seeing some new sidewalks go in, looking great on West Ave, Beardsley, and Roselawn Avenue. Yeah, just thanks to Brian and everybody in management here, making things look good and keeping our infrastructure up to snuff.
Thanks, the board, for funding that double this year. So it's our first year of $200,000 worth of sidewalks, so it's fun to do that because you get to really see a lot of work get done. So, thank you.
I'm going
guys.
to throw one in thing. I promise I'm going to you next. I know what else was on my list. Be aware that the Monroe County Water Authority is still working on replacement of water lines through our village, and you may see them digging up the streets, even if they've just been repaved. Doing work in neighborhoods. It is not the Village of Fairport's project. It is the Monroe County Water Authority, and they are replacing cast iron? No, which pipes?
Lead pipe services and water services.
Yeah.
Lead
So-
in water services, yes.
And when they're digging, even if it's a street over from your house, you may feel your house shaking from personal experience. I just wanted to add that. Please, Emily.
The historic house tour was last weekend, and it was quite a success. There were 4 houses on the tour, so big appreciation to all the homeowners who opened up their homes for that fundraiser for the Parrington Historical Museum. Consider opening up your home next year. That's always the hardest, I think, part of organizing that, finding folks that are willing to do that. So you've been pre-warned, or pre-asked, I should say.
Who should they contact to do that?
Lucy McCormick, maybe? I know Lucy McCormick.
Go over to the
from-
Parrington Historical
yeah,
Society
there you
and
go.
ask, and they'll give you the right name.
Good answer. The DPW has been so responsive to so many things recently, and I just want to give a big shout out to them. Just to speak about one of the things that they have been really responsive to was you might have noticed a brand new Main Street Park sign that went up on that brick wall, right where the old pigeon coop came down. That sign actually covers up the opening for the time capsule. And the sign was quite dilapidated and warped, and DPW, with the help of our village manager, a new sign was made. But in taking down the old sign, there was directions for opening up the time capsule on the reverse side of it. And so they even are in the process of adding the directions to the back of that sign, so that in 2076, it was a bicentennial project in 1976. So in 2076, some of us will be here, some of us will not. I don't know. Probably many of us will not. Everyone will have the correct information for opening up that time capsule, which I think was really cool. So that was a big thank you to the DPW for doing that.
Where did the old plaque go?
It was given to the historical, yeah, and they were really excited to receive that. So thank you very much. The other thing I just wanted to say was a resident came to me. They saw a sort of a large hole that had started forming down by Thomas Creek. So I'm just bringing this up because when you see something that's unsafe, just mention it. And DPW had it fixed like within, I think, the next day or two. So if there is something that you see that is a potential hazard for others, just bring it to any one of our attention and we'll make sure
Or
that,
I'll give you another suggestion.
yeah.
The hotline number is
Oh, yes.
223, it's on our website,
223.
9500.
9500. It's
I actually
available.
didn't know that number.
I was going to give you the mayor's cell phone number. that you can call
Thank
with
you.
all your complaints.
Call Julie.
So that is fabulous.
But you can call that number, and I believe it's responsive 24/7. So
It's great.
it's available. It's on our website.
The leaf pickup is really great, but in the meantime, once you've raked up the leaves, please don't put them into the street. Don't put your grass clippings in the street. Don't put your weeds in the street. Just pile them up right on the tree lawn. It is the safest location to put those items. If we put them in the street, it really causes a hazard for drivers, bikers, motorcyclists, all kinds of transportation. And then I also wanted to I don't know how many people were dying to get their hands on the October 3rd meeting notes. Those will be in the November, those will be available in the November minutes.
Are you talking about the meeting minutes?
The October meeting minutes were not in this unfinished business. They weren't approved in this meeting. So they'll be, if anyone is wondering, they will be in the November meeting minutes.
Okay.
Okay?
All set?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Trustee Briggs.
A few things. Artworks had its official grand opening this Saturday, and this has just come together so fast from just a couple artists on the wall in August, and there are 33 artist members, and we had over 600 people attend. So really trying to put the art gallery on the map. And last week, there was a consultant from the village of, the city of Rochester and Monroe County. They both have budgets for art, but they don't have a comprehensive plan for arts or a public art document. So they've actually hired a consultant, several consultants, to put together a comprehensive art plan for the city and for the county. So part of it is reaching out to all the communities on what do you actually have going on and what are your needs. So there was a group of us that met. They were citizens, artists, some people from the partnership, some people from the gallery. I responded and I went also. So when he visited Fairport, it's like, shouldn't surprise us. We already are an absolute rock star for the arts, but we're the only village or municipality in the county that has a public art plan. We have a gallery, we have a craft store, we have 4 businesses that showcase public art on their walls in their business. You know, we have an art trail that's put out in all the boater bags, and new people moving to the community. I'll get information on that. And then the schools having their annual art show, and then the programming through the library, the programming through Parenton Rec Center. They have an art club up there. They teach classes. So it was really pretty impressive that the art scene that we have already organically happening in the village. So the comprehensive plan is, they hope to have it done 2025, and it's going to be presented to County Ledge and the city. They can adopt it or not, or parts of it. The number one concern was obviously money. So reworking some of the grants so they're friendlier and easier to apply for. A lot of them now, there's not enough lead time. And then the consultant brought up that as he's visited all these different communities, that the strength of the volunteerism and the willingness of your community actually makes your programming strong, but it's recognized that if that's a limited resource, that's not sustainable to have all this awesomeness. So one thing that he hopes to have included is a way to have grants for administrative costs for organizations, not just Fairport, but the county as well. And lastly, just sharing a feel-good story. I go to the merchants meeting so I can know what's going on with the merchants. And this was shared out a couple months ago, but it really kind of stayed with me, so I followed up on it. Susan, I probably won't say her name right, Kamerlin, she shared, you may have been at this meeting, Mayor, she shared that the corner bookstore just celebrated their 10-year anniversary. It was supposed to be a 3-year stint while the library was under construction and remodeling. And she shared, and this has all just happened organically, that Bill Coleman, he's a resident, he's an officer or a sheriff, but he also works for the Ontario County Jail. So he approached the corner bookstore saying, do you have any books that you'd be willing to donate to some of the inmates or borrow or start an exchange program? And they did. And then the inmates started sending thank you notes to the bookstore ladies. And the thank you notes, common theme, very, very appreciative of having books provided to them. It gave their minds some substance. It reduced their stress, relaxing. It really made a difference while their time inside incarceration. And there was a couple, I won't read them all, but there was just a couple of the thank you notes. Dear, bookstore ladies, I find it very kind and heartfelt that in a world that has much too little empathy and kindness, that they've reached out. When we can all learn from the people like you. When a little bit of kindness is put out into the world's pool, who knows where those ripples will go or what good will be passed on to the world because of your kindness. I mean, there's notes that they wrote to the bookstore. Every book is a small adventure to each and every one of us that is inside here. With all the downtime, this book keeps our day moving along, and we are so very thankful. I mean, that just kind of resonated with me. It's kind of like share the love, and I know this has all just happened organically. They didn't want recognition, but there's probably a lot of stories like that in our community, but I wanted to share something really positive that stuck with me. So that's a shout out to the corner bookstore.
Thank you. For upcoming village board meetings, the village board work session, the next work session will be held Monday, October 28th, 2024 at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. And then the regular village board meeting for November will be Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 at 6 p.m. I believe Veterans Day is on Monday, the 11th. And the meetings will be held in the Village Hall, Fairport Village Hall, 31 South Main Street, Fairport, New York, on the second floor boardroom. And with that, I will ask for a motion by the village board to enter into executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular individual.
So moved.
By trustee Briggs.
Second, trustee
By-
Wyka.
Thank you. And all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? So that will end our live time session for this evening. We will enter executive session, and then when we come out of executive session, there'll be no further business conducted, and we will have a motion to exit and adjourn the village board meeting. So thank you very much for all of you joining us this evening, and have a great week. Put your leaves out. Be careful crossing in crosswalks.